Welcome to another episode of That's Dope. My name is Godswill Ugwa, and I have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Real Roxy. How are you? Thank you so much for joining this podcast.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excited to talk with you. This has been an episode I've been wanting to have for a long time. Definitely talk with you. I remember talking with you back in summertime. I just wanted to hear about what your experience is like, and then especially now, especially this last month with the Dave Chappelle special, I was like, this is a more important time to talk about what your experience is like. We became friends, and you started telling me about how your life is you're a sex worker, you're a Black trans woman, and you have so many experiences that I thought were really cool to share. So, I'm really excited to hear about that. And also, if I stick my foot in my mouth, say something wrong, please, bear with me, because I'm learning a lot.
Oh, so no, it's okay. I'm not going to bear with you. I'll correct you.
All right, there we go. Yeah, yeah. Please, honestly, tell me, what I'm missing. Especially with this whole Dave Chappelle thing that just happened, with this whole special. It seems like there's a lot of misinformation, especially when it comes to trans people. I don't know a lot myself, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to, sort of clear things up and, sort of see what your life is like. So I guess to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do right now, and then also, I guess how this year has been treating you too?
Yeah, of course. So, of course, I go by the Real Roxy or TS Roxy or whatever, but I'm originally from St. Louis. I'm trans, clearly. I've been kind of in sex work for a very long time, probably since I was about 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So it started off as far as just full out prostitution, if we're going to be completely blunt. But in my later years, as far as now, it's more so in the porn industry, which is better because I make more money.
Hey.
Legal. What do they say? Tax paying citizen.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
and hopefully it's safer too, right?
Yeah, of course, it's a lot safer because I get to choose who I want to do videos, even if I want to or not want to. So that's always awesome. And it's much more fun because you treat it like a business and you're able to create your own schedule and do as you please, right? So it's always good. Yeah. But as far as the Dave Chappelle special goes, I honestly did not watch the full comedy sketch or whatever, because to be honest, it's the one before the latest one that they released on Netflix was funnier to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't offend me, but personally, I can never we can never how can I put it? If many trans people were offended by it, then we can't invalidate their feelings. Because me personally, I grew up around stuff like that. So when you tend to grow up around people saying things like that, it goes in one ear and out the other. And it's oh, okay, well, I'm not going to watch the rest of it because it's stupid.
Yeah.
To me. And I also think he's a comedian, so they should let comedians tell their jokes, right? It brings people together, especially what he's talking about. And he wasn't just talking about trans people. So in my opinion, it wasn't funny. I wasn't offended personally, but hey,
I think that's
this generation has,
Yeah, no, I was about to say, I think that's a good mindset with that. I've even heard many other trans people couldn't finish it. I do sort of agree. This one wasn't very funny. It was just more I have something to say, and you guys are going to listen to me talk about this group, right?
The last one was like really funny. Even when he like, as far as like the joke about the gay people and the trans
At that
person
car.
in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so funny. Like, I think he was with this one. I think he was basically trying to clean up the mess, but it was kind of like, it ain't funny. It wasn't funny to me.
I think that's fair. You were about to say about this generation, though, right?
Yeah, but this generation, they're so like, they're very sensitive, or they try to be very sensitive, right?
Yeah.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah. That's something I've been wondering about too. Is like,
But it's for the best. It's
yeah,
for the best, because
like
I'll
we're
say,
starting
like,
to talk about these things, right?
yes, and once you open up and talk about it, even for people who are not like comfortable being around trans people, or even want to be around trans people, and make them want to learn a little bit, even if they really don't want to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, I think it is something that we need to start talking about, like as a honestly a human society, right?
Yeah, because we need to normalize trans women, not only trans women, but trans men as well, right? It's so easy for people to say, like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, and I don't like this about trans women, but you rarely hear about trans men because they go under the radar. And no one really, once you start to think of like sex or gender, no one really, like, this is truly a man's world. And I'm
Honestly.
looking at it, from the aspect of being trans, because there are so many things that women are told not to do, what we should do, how we should do it, and how we're treated and looked at in the eyes of men. So,
Oh wow. Yeah, I guess that's not something like I think about a lot. Yeah. I guess like what's something that like an experience that like we're missing, something that like we need to like hear about, especially like from your perspective, that like for example like man, like the male perspective, and like what we're telling like the rest of society to do, I guess, right?
yeah, the number one thing for me, because I'm 31, is remember that trans women are human, right? We deserve respect if respect is given, right? And yeah, we tend to overly sexualize ourselves, but most women do. I'm not gonna say most women do. I'm going to speak on myself, right? And trans women that I know. I'm not gonna say that. But
Yeah.
most trans women overly sexualize to compensate for being trans, right? Because the more from our world, right? The more sexier you come off, the less a man will look at you and say, oh, that's a trans woman. Because men think with their eyes or their penis.
Yeah, right.
So when they see big breasts, big hips, big ass, it takes off from like, oh, that's a trans woman most of the time. But I just want to say, like, men should not just treat us human. Get to know us. Let us be who we're going to be. Because in my generation, we didn't talk about being trans. We didn't really know what trans was. And if you were passable, meaning like you can pass as female, you did that. Like, you didn't tell people that you were trans. You lived what they call stealth, which means you flew under the radar. So you wouldn't have to deal with the problematic things that trans women would go through that were deemed that they look like a man. So, and that's why a lot of girls do that. But hey.
Wow. I guess, yeah, I mean, I never really thought about like the passing part, right? And I guess it makes me wonder, like, yeah, I mean, like the human aspect, I guess you shouldn't have to pass to be treated like with any type of respect, right?
Right. But when you live in a world that's like predominantly heterosexual and predominantly like male and female, you either have to be male or female. So when you're steady trying to push the agenda of trans, And it's something completely like no one wants to see a male turn female, right? So, especially in the
Why
black,
do you think that
especially
is, by the way?
I'll say in the black community because of it goes back to like slavery and what is it called? Butt breaking, what is it called?
Yeah, like that
When they used
emasculation, right? That
Yeah, when they would
yeah,
rape the male
yeah,
slaves
the
to
bull
make
break,
them
yeah, the bull breaking, right, or something like that.
yeah, I'm not really sure what it's called, but it goes back to that and
Mm,
what they were taught back then, and it just trickles down from generation to generation, which is why so many black people, in my experience, they're against like homosexuality, trans, anything that has to do with LGBT. It's kind of like they step back from it. Although we're black before anything,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So
ooh,
it's just like
that's that right there, right? We should
yeah,
be
and they tend to forget that like we have a special privilege just because we are trans or gay or lesbian. No, we don't. They look at us the same.
all
We
right.
look
In
just
fact,
like you.
all right. They treat us
So
all bad, right? Because yeah, I mean, I've been hearing about like the agenda, right? Like the government is trying to turn all men gay, or like or something like that. And I'm just sort of like,
yeah.
where'd that come from? But I like that you brought the historical aspect to that, because yeah, that's not something I even thought about, honestly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's crazy. Like, oh, the trans agenda, the gay agenda, we're pushing gay. Like, what are you talking about? Like, when I was younger, all I saw was like affection from men and women, my mother and father on TV. All you saw were men and women. But from the age of 3, I would tell my mother I wanted to be a girl, and she would tell me, that's not what little boys do or want. Right. So my mother told me that from the age of 3, and I wasn't around any gay people or any trans people.
Wow.
So,
In fact, that's a question actually that I was wondering if I could even ask. Like, it's like, how'd you know? Like, because that's yeah, yeah. Also, sorry if that's like not the proper question, I guess, to ask. But yeah, I guess like, so you knew like when you were 3 years old, like as like you had your own awareness of yourself. Like, yeah, you were always meant to be a woman, right?
well, I wouldn't necessarily word it like that because,
Okay.
when you're a child, many people like to think like, oh, children are naive, children don't know much of anything. And to a certain extent, it's true because, as a child, your mind is still, growing and learning and all those other things.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, parents know when their children are different. And I'll say different because, like I said, in the Black community, no one really, it's just gay. It's not LGBTQ
Mm-hmm. The
IA
nuance,
plus. It's
right?
none of that. It's
Yeah.
gay.
Mm.
Right. So when I would say things like that, my father would say, like, I don't have no gay children. I don't have, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So at the age of 3, was I aware? No, but I knew I wanted to be a girl,
I see.
you
I see.
know?
Uh-huh.
So from the age of 3, then 5, then 10, then when I was able to make make it come into a reality, I was about 13 years old,
Oh wow.
right? So that's when my mother got me counseling, and she realized, like, hey, this is serious, and you've been saying this since you were 3 years old, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she's like, what did I do wrong? Did I raise you wrong? What did I do? And it's like, for me, I have always been this way, you know, even when I even when I wasn't able to put a name on it or a label on it, I knew I wanted to be a girl.
Ah, that's dope.
Yeah. So, because, and I'm only saying in my experience, because
Yes.
there are many people who have different experiences, and which is why some people may say, oh, it's a choice, because they were brought into the lifestyle from manipulation, rape, um, molestation, you know, but that's a very small percentage, but they have a voice too, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
that's one
good.
thing you have to remember.
Yeah. Also, I really appreciate you, prefacing it like that, but also it's really cool to hear what your experience is like. Because yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't even know like what's the proper way to even ask about like that too, but
Yeah,
something
of
that comes
course,
to
because
mind.
yeah. But I mean, I think the proper way to ask is when you actually are friends with the person
Mhm.
and or when the conversation is open and that person feels comfortable enough to talk to you about that, right?
Absolutely.
Because clearly if a person's walking around dressed as a female or a woman, they want to be presented as such, right?
Hmm.
No matter if you can tell that they're male or not.
Yeah, it's not like really like my business to like, hey, why are you like that, right? But like, like
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
but it means a lot that you, right? Like, hey, right? But like, it does mean a lot that you are sharing your experience with us, like, it does mean a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, this only been like 10 minutes already, and it's like this has been like pretty deep to hear like what your experience is like.
Mm.
Um, and like I guess because it feels like there's so much that we have to learn, especially I think like in the last 10 years or sorts, right? Like that's like when the conversation has become more mainstream, right? But there's still so much that like people don't know at all, right?
Well, I don't think it's they don't know because the information is out. Just
Mm,
like when you have Caucasian people say, "Oh, well, I don't know much about slavery because I wasn't there," but it's
uh-huh.
like the information is out there.
Hmm.
It's a Google search away.
Yeah,
It's a YouTube video away.
yeah.
Nowadays it's so many different platforms to where you don't even have to read
Yeah,
and you
someone telling
can
you.
yeah, look at
Yeah.
us.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, that's what I think that's what I'm hoping to do with this talk right now because like even just sort of scrolling on Instagram and it's just sort of seeing like ignorance about it, ignorance about like I saw like a meme that like I didn't really like where there was a trans woman that was like, hey, you were attracted to me and then you found out that I was trans and then you started getting mad and then people were like defending their choice and it's just sort of like I don't think that's proper, like I think
it's not
yeah.
because men are entitled.
Hmm.
And when I say men are entitled, they're entitled to women's bodies, right? Anytime, like say for instance, I'll go out to the grocery store, I'll go out for brunch, I may go to the gym. I have men come up who want to talk to me, but the way they get my attention is by touching my lower back
Oh.
or touching my ass or grabbing my arm. You know what I
Oh.
mean?
Uh-huh.
So, and when you actually do tell them if they don't know, but when you actually do tell them, they do get a bit offended. But it's like, I don't even know you. I didn't come up to you.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want sex from you instantly, like
Mm.
you wanted it from me. But now you're upset because you were thinking with your
Yeah.
private part
Uh-huh.
and you saw a beautiful woman that you may have wanted to impregnate subconsciously. That's what I
Yeah.
always say.
Wow.
They be trying to put a baby up in you. But
Uh-huh. Wow.
yeah. And
I
see
didn't
that
know.
that's another thing. It's like men, most men do not humanize trans women. It's a fetish, it's sexual. And I feel like the only way it'll stop is when trans women realize that they hold value and there's no need for a man to validate your womanhood. Yeah, women need men in their lives, but there's no reason for a man to validate our womanhood, right?
Hmm.
So, because when you're looking for that approval, it's easy for men to just come in your life, fuck you, and go.
Wow.
But no one wants that. Everyone wants to be in love. Everyone wants to be in a healthy relationship. So,
Wow. Yeah.
I
That's
mean, I
really
know
well.
I do.
Yeah. 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 Like, yeah. Yeah. Like how's that? Especially like love as a sex worker, right? That sounds even
Mhm.
more complicated too, right?
Well, I don't. Well, I think people make it more complicated than it seems because it's like, okay, if you look at it from a man's point of view, right?
Hmm.
From a man's point of view, a man can wife a woman, love her to death, but have sex with another woman, and there's no feeling involved besides him wanting to get a nut and maybe some type of like fantasy aspect of the interaction.
Mm.
Kind of like the same thing. I don't have feelings for the men that I create content with. Most of the time I don't want to be with them in like a monogamous relationship, and that's that.
Okay. But then like you can sort of separate or like in a way like find the monogamous or I guess the like would you consider yourself like polyamorous or like monogamous or I guess like just sort of in
No,
the middle, huh?
no, I'm kind of old school. I like monogamy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of old school
That's cool.
because I'll be honest, I know myself, and um I don't want any type of leeway for a man to tell me, oh, well, you're a porn star and you get to fuck your co-stars or have sex with your co-stars. Why can't I?
Mm.
So no.
Hmm. Okay. That's
And
good.
that's why it's very important for me to find a partner who is okay with creating content with me solely, right?
Ah,
So
okay. Huh.
that's my thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for now because I make six figures. So it's something that I cannot and will not just throw it away completely.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, like that's yeah, I guess that's not something I like this is good. This is all really good, you know? Like this is
yeah.
like really opening up my like even definition of it, you know? Like I have the perspective of a man that's not, you know, like really around sex work or whatever, you know, and it's still something I have to learn. Um, you know, like yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, most
Uh,
definitely. Because I know a lot of girls who from the outside looking in are in healthy relationships and the girls are prostitutes.
mm,
I can never do that because like I said, I don't want a man telling me like, well, you get to do A, B, and C and I can't. Or oh, let me bring a girl in because you're down with it anyways and I'm not.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Which is why I had to switch from prostitution to porn. I mean, it's still sex work, but
mm-hmm,
like I stated earlier, it's completely different because I get
mm.
to choose who I sleep with and I can just make solo videos and or find a partner and me and him can just create content together.
I see. Would it be cool if I asked about like how you got into prostitution and then like transition into porn or like
Okay.
online content?
Okay, so how I got into prostitution is when my mother found out that like this is real, you know,
Mhm.
because she had got to the point where when you become a teenager and you start smelling yourself basically.
Mhm, mhm.
uh, being so I was being like I was going against the grain basically,
Mhm.
and she would tell me,
Rebellious.
yeah, very rebellious, and she would tell me like, oh, you can't do this until you're out of my house, you
Mm,
know
mhm.
or you can't dress like a girl until you're able to pay for it yourself, right?
Wow. Okay.
So, my stepfather's Muslim. He's from Jerusalem, and
Wow.
within their religion, it's completely
Hardcore.
hell for people like me,
Yeah.
to say the least. But she sent me to live with my sister. So I went from living middle to upper class to complete poverty,
Oh, dang.
right? So I was put into a situation to where my sister worked two jobs. She had two children and she couldn't afford daycare. And the
Oh,
government would not, the government would give her like a certain amount of uh I guess monies or credits to get free daycare, right?
mhm.
So on certain days I would have to watch them. And my sister just straight up told me like, either you can watch my kids or you can get out,
Wow.
right? Because she had to
Uh,
work.
yeah.
So I would literally, at the age of 14, I would literally steal my sister's car. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So okay, so I met a person in like, I would say freshman year. I
Mhm.
met him, and he introduced me to other people, and one of the people was a trans woman. And this was my first time interacting with a trans woman. But when I saw her and I interacted with her, I was like, this is what I want. And just so happened she was a prostitute.
Oh,
And
okay.
just so happened, I was telling her what had happened to me, and she was just like, well, you could be my daughter, right? So
Hmm.
she was kind of like a mother figure to me. But instead of her telling me like finish school, just like a boy from the time being, but finish school, and then once you get out of school and get a job, then properly transition, right? That
Mhm.
that would be the right way to do it, right? But no, once you have, but um, once you figure out that you're trans, your dysphoria starts to kick in, right? So when you look
Mhm.
in a mirror and you see a person that you don't want to see, and it's not adding up, you have to change it. You have to change it. That's how a lot of trans women end up suiciding, and all like cutting themselves because of the dysphoria. So she took me on the stroll, and that's how I began prostituting at the age of, I want to say I was like 14 turning 15.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I did that off and on for about maybe like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I moved from like actual walking up and down the street prostituting to ads like on Backpage and things of that nature.
Okay.
Went from that to getting a regular job because I was completely tired of, s- uh, prostituting or sex work, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
I was tired of it because I was tired of dealing with different energies, different men, and, you know, men, different men that I didn't want to have access to me,
Mhm.
having access to me. After a while, it becomes very draining. It becomes very lonely. And the only thing you can think about is your survival, right?
Mhm.
So at that point in time, it was more so for survival because I didn't know better. I wasn't taught much of anything. Most of the things that I was taught and that I'm still being taught is from white men, right? Even men who look like me as far as the same skin color,
Mhm.
they would be okay with giving me money, having sex with me, and leaving instead of giving me a bit of knowledge that they may have that to better me, to better myself, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I stopped prostituting for about a good 4 years, and I was working at like a grocery store, and then I started working at like a Amazon.
Oh, like a
So
warehouses?
yeah, like a
Ah,
warehouse.
I see.
So, but one thing about sex work, the money, it's fast money, and if you do it properly, you can make a lot of money, right? So once I realized I can make more money online versus posting ads, I was like, fuck, I might as well do that. Like,
Yeah.
that's fucking stupid. It's stupid of me to continue to have all these different men have access to my body
Mhm.
when I can just stop it completely and have 2 to 3 people that I see on a regular basis create content, and I'm finished, right?
Mhm.
Because on OnlyFans you can pre-schedule all your content, so I can have my content pre-scheduled for
Oh.
2 months in advance and not
Oh,
even
wow.
have sex, while people thinking, oh, she's a fucking slut, she loves sex. I'm like, I haven't had sex in a month or two.
Hey,
So
okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
but that's how I transitioned from it. And that's the good thing about this generation, because it's like trans women have so much access to a lot of things that I didn't have access to when I was younger, right?
Mhm.
Even with the surgeries, it was like pulling teeth. even finding a good therapist was like pulling teeth. Even getting on hormones legally was like pulling teeth. Now they have apps and all this other stuff. So
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, how is it today versus like how was it? I mean, the funny thing is we're the same generation, right? So it's like
yeah,
I can't even imagine. Yeah, so it sounds like it's
it's
getting better,
completely
huh?
different. Yeah,
Okay.
it's completely different. It's better. Although, we may not be completely accepted everywhere around the world
Hmm.
or even in, completely in the US, but it's a lot better. At,
Okay.
it's to the point where we're actually visible. It's to the
Yeah.
point where, we don't have to just come out at nighttime or, be seen as a thrill and go. Now we're actually seeing doctors, lawyers, pop stars, comedians, all across the board, trans women and trans men. So that's amazing because, we all want to be able to look up and see someone like us so we can thrive and be better in life and, in all of our accomplishments or goals. Because if we don't, it's kind of hard,
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Like,
especially as being trans and being exiled from your family, your community, and not knowing what to do, where to go, and how to even start to do it or build a life because no one told you, right?
mhm.
No one taught you. No one even gave you advice, or no one was even willing to give you advice. So that's amazing.
Wow, that's good. At least I'm happy that it's getting better. Like, cause especially like with this whole Chappelle special, right? Like where I was like, one argument I had heard was if you want to be treated like a human, you have to be able to be made fun of. But I was like, is that really fair? Especially like as like the trans community is still like sort of getting beaten down in a way, right?
Yeah, I don't really understand that statement, but I mean, comedy is comedy,
Mm,
and you can't laugh at him talking about white people, you know, and crackheads and people with HIV, and then turn and say, "Oh no, you shouldn't say that about trans people."
hmm, hmm.
But like I said, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for other trans women and how they feel. I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's like the wisest perspective for sure, right? Yeah.
yeah, but you most definitely cannot. You can't pick and choose what you want to laugh at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm.
Like, he's a comedian. We have made that man make a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Okay, like, he's funny. He's good at what he does, but I don't know.
Mm. That's a good point. That's a good point. Like, because yeah, I mean, like right now, like he's doing like this movie that's supposed to be happening in 10 cities. And
Mhm.
like I'm looking at the prices for it, and like it's like starting at $120, per seat. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean he's about to get like a lot more money. So
No, that's what I'm saying. And they're going to come out and see Dave Chappelle. Like,
yeah,
he's actually funny.
yeah,
So
that's the truth.
I just hope he curates content like when he tells his trans jokes to where it's actually like the last skit or whatever versus
Mm,
this one, because the last one was funny. Like, I
mm.
love the last one.
Like actually like make people laugh with this, not just
Yeah, like
yeah,
this one was kind
complaining.
of like cringe. It
Yeah.
was very cringe worthy, like, ugh, and I just clicked off of it because it was like, this isn't even funny.
Hmm. That's cool. Yeah, I think I like that perspective about comedians because yeah, I mean, like personally, it sort of bums me out that like that people were like trying to boycott it, not boycott it, but like get it taken out. But at the same time, is like it's like maybe that's a fair perspective, right? Like since it is like offensive to a whole group. So
But I don't think it's fair.
yeah.
I think they're doing it because he's black. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
be honest. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Like, they always want to tear a black man down. And I'm saying that. And I can vouch for that because I'm black,
Hmm.
right? They're
Yeah.
always trying to take the black man's accolades and accomplishments and achievements and all that
Mm.
other stuff. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's been a comedian for over 10 years.
Hmm.
He was on the little, what is that, the comedy show? The
Yeah.
comedy little.
Like Comedy
Comedy
Central?
Central or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
No one had a problem with him talking about crackheads.
Yeah. Yeah. Black
Like,
community, right? Yeah. Keep on going. But
yeah,
now,
like
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that brings me to another question. I guess like what is the differences between like white trans culture and black trans culture, and I guess like the acceptance, right? Do you see a difference, or like is it harder for sure?
I think there's a disconnect solely because white, and I'm just going to say white people as a whole,
Mhm.
they tend to not understand the struggle of the black culture,
Mhm.
right? So to
Yep.
speak. So there will always be a disconnect. So because even like when I was going to therapy, in one of my sessions, because I was seeing like a white trans therapist,
Ah.
and she told me like, maybe you should go see a black therapist. And I was like, well, why would I do that if you're trans?
Uh-huh.
And it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay. So I just felt like, oh, okay, there's a disconnect because you don't even understand or know how to help me get through with what I'm getting through because our experiences were somewhat different, right?
Mhm.
Because most white trans people I talk to, their parents didn't put them out. Not saying that it doesn't happen,
Mhm.
but with most trans women that are black, their parents disown them. Their
Mhm.
parents put them out. Their parents tell them, in order for you to live a certain way under my roof, you will be called by this, which is the name I gave you, and you will look like the person that I pushed out. You understand what I'm saying?
I
So,
see. Yeah. Dang. How
but
is your relationship with your family better these days, or is it
yeah,
still
most
strained?
definitely.
Good. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's still this. It's a lot better. Um, it was never bad with like my sisters because they
Mhm.
were always on board, supportive, and like wanting me to thrive. But when you come from a family full of trauma,
Mm.
you know, it's like, where do you begin?
Yeah, like
I
it's like
used to
another
always,
thing, right? To start like
yeah,
trying to.
because I used to always ask my mother, like, why did you send me to my sister? Why did you, low key disown me?
Mm.
Why did you feel a certain way? And she would always tell me, I never felt a certain way. I have I have many of gay friends, and I would have to tell her, I'm not gay, I'm trans, you know?
Uh-huh.
And there's a disconnect right there.
Mhm.
And then she was like, she would say, like, I did the best that I could do. I didn't think so.
Mhm.
But once I started to dig deep into my mother's history and some of my sister's history when I was younger, maybe she did do the best she could do,
Ah.
because how I feel and what I feel like she should have done, she probably couldn't have done. Like I gave her too much credit, right? So
That's good. I mean, that's also really cool that you're able to like empathize with your mom in that sense,
yeah, of
right? Like just
course.
see
Yeah.
her experience.
Yeah. And
Uh
I took that because it had got to a point where every time because every year I would ask her, like, why did you disown me? She would always say, well, I did my best. I took care of you. And I was like, you didn't do your best. You didn't do your best. I would always like that would always be the fight. And it's just like I had to sit down and realize like maybe she did do her best, you
dang.
know?
Okay. Oh, that's cool. I mean, so I guess like would you say that you've like forgiven her in a sense, or like do you think like there's still things to be like worked on? Like
Absolutely not.
yeah. Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
No. I will never forgive her until she tells me the truth
Hmm.
about why she did what she did, right? I can only speculate on why she did what she did, but I want
Yeah.
it to come out of her
Actually
mouth.
her, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an adult,
Yeah.
and a lot of the trauma and the things that I went through, it stemmed from her, right?
Mm.
And and I feel bad when I say that because it's like, they say like, "Oh, you're an adult, you can change what happened to you," but sometimes that trauma is so deep to the point where it affects you.
Yeah, your whole
You know what I mean?
being, right?
It affects
Mhm.
you day in and day out. Yes, you can push it to the back of your mind. Yes, you can stay busy, but it's like, as your child, can you really tell me why you did what you did? You know? And
Like, would I
clearly
be
I
honest?
can I know why, because
Yeah.
she had so many children. She didn't know how to raise us, and she found the man of her dreams, and he swept her off her feet, and she just wanted to be happy, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, if you have children, you should take care of your children
I like
instead of trying to take care of a man,
yeah.
right? So,
That's a good point. That's a great
yeah.
point. I guess, what are you hoping, like, this next generation is able to, like, how should they be, like, treated, how should they be, like, taken care of, so that way they can become, like, healthier people? Like, I guess, like, what's something that you wish that you had, as you were growing up, so that way you could be, like, who you're supposed to be better?
Yeah, of course. I feel like a really good support system, right? We all need a really good support system. We all need, I'm a big advocate of go to school,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
If you don't want to go to college, get a trade,
mm,
right? Because no one should be forced into survival sex work,
mm,
right? And when I say survival sex work, I mean like prostitution, because nowadays, there are a lot of people on OnlyFans doing porn, and porn is considered sex work, but I mean, they're actually making the conscious decision to say, hey, I'm comfortable doing this, and I'm going to do this because it's way safer, right?
mhm,
That's
mhm,
okay. But I'm talking about the girls who have to go into prostitution on the streets, see people that they don't want to see for money to live a certain life.
mm.
Go to school, get a
Yeah.
trade, and live your life, right? And I would also want to say men, Black men especially, need to start humanizing women. And when I say women, I mean females and trans women a lot more than what they do because they sexualize us,
Yeah.
right? And we're like I see on YouTube, we always having conversations on, oh look, like, oh, it's the women's fault that men don't accept trans women 100% or openly. No, the fuck it's not. It's men's fault. Men are entitled. Men feel like they can do whatever they want to do, and they don't want to put a label on it. They don't want to do this. They don't want people to know. Men need to be held more accountable for their actions, and they need to keep it real, because we can only keep it real. And when men start to fully accept themselves as pansexual, bisexual, trans attracted, straight and trans attracted, whatever, I feel like we'll all be able to live healthier lives, because trans women will be deemed, I don't even want to say good enough, but trans women will be deemed like, okay, I'm comfortable in my own skin. We can live our lives. We can be happy. We can have children and live a healthy life, or what I would consider a healthy life, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Because I
Wow.
see so many trans women, uh, when they get old, they're still lonely prostitutes
Mm, dang.
or sex workers,
Mhm, mhm. But
but they're
more for
lonely.
survival, right? Not
Yeah,
for
but they're lonely. Like
mhm,
you can go on YouTube, you can go on Facebook, you can go on Instagram and see healthy heterosexual relationships and healthy gay relationships.
mm,
I have yet to see a thriving, healthy trans attracted man and a trans woman in a healthy, thriving relationship. And when I say relationship, I mean like, you know, been together for more than 5 years. They may have children. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
that type of
Yeah,
deal.
like, actually have a family, like, the
Yeah,
what they
I
achieve.
haven't, yeah, I haven't seen it. Haven't
Ah,
seen it.
that's a good point, yeah.
Especially in the Black community. I have not seen it.
Yeah, that's a great point if I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I've never even thought about that, until you brought that up. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, I mean, I think that does make an argument for like the media, right? Yeah, I've never really seen like a trans family, in the media, right? Or just anywhere really, actually it wasn't even until talking to you, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is, yeah, like we want to be treated like people, right?
Of course, humanize us.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing because they are starting to do it, which is why we have trans pop stars, trans doctors, trans therapists,
Mm-hmm.
all across the board. But it needs to be pushed more for Black trans people.
I like that.
Because even with Black people, you know how they give us the shitty end of the stick most of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But just imagine
for
how they
ourselves,
do
we need to do this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
most
That's
definitely.
fantastic.
But
That's
but like
fantastic.
I said, Black men need to be held accountable, not Black women. It's not Black women who make Black men hide all their insecurities or how they truly feel about trans women. It's the men,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to be held accountable. They should be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm all for people telling their own stories and coming out when they want to, because most men don't see themselves as trans attracted, or they don't want to say it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like
Because admitting that, then they would have to go down an entire rabbit hole of other questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, is there even like a LGBT label for trans attracted type of deal? Like, yeah, it's not even something I've even thought about. I guess, yeah, like as you said earlier, it's just been gay, right? And yeah, it's like,
I mean, and for a majority of Black people, it's still gay, right? You can say I identify as trans, but I can go back to where I was raised, and they would say, no, you're not trans, you're a nigga, you're gay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Use my language, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. Feel free to. Yeah. But yeah, at the same time,
you know how it is when people get around their homeboys and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Damn. It
but
sounds like we have a lot of work.
It's a beautiful thing to have open dialogue, because I know people that are like, hey, I got trans friends. Like, don't be disrespectful. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, to actually start. Actually start like being respectful as a whole, but then there's more that we need to get to for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
Wow. I mean, this was fantastic, honestly. Like, this was very eye-opening, and I appreciate you spending the time and being like really open with me about your experiences, like what's been, like what you like to see and like what we need to do. And I agree, honestly. This is the start that we need to have, I really appreciate
if there's one thing that I could say, well, I'm going to say a couple of things.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, lay it all out. Like, definitely, yeah.
So to trans women, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated, right? And just because you see a person's potential does not mean that they're going to reach their potential.
Especially if they're adults, right?
Yeah, be selfish. Be very selfish until you get to the place where you want to be. No matter what. And don't let anyone or anybody dictate your transition or how you should transition or what you should look like. And as far as like, I'll say like, if it's like a mother or father going through something with a trans child, get them therapy. Don't just keep constantly telling them like, little girls don't do this or little boys don't do this. Get them therapy.
I never really thought about giving a child therapy, but that makes a ton of sense, right?
Yeah, and a lot of Black people don't believe in therapy.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing.
But it actually, but it actually works, and it's more so for the mental state of the child and the adult, right?
Mhm.
Because if you have a trans child, how would you even know? Because you would spew the same thing as maybe like a mother or your father would say.
Mhm.
Boys don't do this.
Yeah.
Boys don't want to wear this, and you're not going to wear this, right?
Mhm.
So you have some trans people who grow up who hide being trans for so long to the point where it's just like they're just doing it in secret
Mm.
and they want to please their family. So they get a wife,
Mhm.
they have children. And then look what happened. Look at Kate. So
See,
that's what happens.
man. Yeah. Wow. Like this is really good. This is really good. And I guess like any last tips because this is like changing the way like I even think about like what I would want to do as a whole, trans
Yeah.
yeah, trans lovers or if I have trans children or even trans friends that I might just want to help out somehow, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And I will also say respect people's pronouns.
Mm,
Just be, respect people's pronouns. Don't just respect someone pronouns because they have a million followers on Instagram
mm,
and you still calling your trans friend Jimmy or he.
mhm,
Respect people's pronouns. And also remember there are trans men in this world. Don't put everything on trans women.
mm. Yeah, honestly, I forgot. I forget about trans men if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Trans men, for people who don't know, are people who are female transitioning to male,
Mm,
so.
wow.
But I mean, I think it's so much we catch so much slack because it's like men rule the world. Why the fuck when you want to be a man?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? Are you
uh
fucking stupid? You know what I
Low
mean?
key, right? Yeah, low key.
So,
I'm like, why would I want to be a woman? But at the same time, yeah, that's a mindset that probably does need to be changed or just at least respected for sure, right? Like,
yeah, because
yeah.
in my mind, that's not even a question,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because it was something that I wanted to do since the age of 3.
Hmm.
Like asking me why, I don't even know why.
That's what
Because
you're
I feel better
hmm.
like this.
Yeah.
I feel complete, I feel whole. And to some people it's probably like, bitch, you're delusional. But I'm not delusional, right? I know what's going on. I know what I am. I know how I want to be perceived. And we have the correct terminology and labels to do so now.
Hmm.
So which is a great thing.
It is. It is. Like, I'm glad to hear that, like, we're starting to get better.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I really like that advice of, like, we need to hold black men ourselves, like, accountable for this, like, and just to allow ourselves to be open about, like, how we really feel instead of,
Yeah, because I really
yeah.
feel that's where the real progression is going to come for Black trans women.
Hmm.
When Black men start to hold themselves accountable and be like, you know what? I am into this. If you don't like it, okay, you know.
Yeah.
But I get it from both ends. I understand it from both ends, right?
Hmm.
Because no one wants to lose family members. No
Hmm.
one wants to be perceived as gay and they don't feel gay or they don't see themselves as gay, right?
Yeah.
So I completely understand it from both ends, but it's just like in the end, we all lose
Yeah. Wow.
because he's hiding who he truly wants to be or who he truly wants to be with. You have his lover who's clueless of who he really is or what he really wants. And then you have the trans woman, lonely, uh, mentally just going insane because she's seen and deemed as beautiful. She's seen and deemed as a sex symbol. she's seen and deemed as, just like anything that relates to beauty, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, I'm so beautiful and I'm the girl of your fantasy, but I can't even be with you and experience who you really are. And you can't even do the same
Mm-hmm.
solely because of my gender. Nothing else.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. Solely because of my gender. Right? You have men out here who I'm even gonna say men. You have Christians out here finding Muslim wives and they can work that out. Right?
Uh-huh.
They
Wow.
can somewhat work that out and become a very healthy, thriving family. But I haven't found a man to be in a healthy, thriving relationship, and it all goes back to my gender. So,
Wow. That's unfortunate, but
hold them niggas accountable. Excuse my language. Oh, you probably know how to bleep that out.
yeah. No, we're keeping it all in. This whole episode was gold. I definitely appreciate it. Like I'm super happy that we made this work. And
Yeah, I'm
like
happy too. I really appreciate you for bringing me on. Sorry for like going around in circles sometimes. I'm kind of
happens. It happens, In fact, actually, I was even worried. I was like, maybe this might be too personal in a way, But
no, it's not personal. No, it's not personal. It's very educational, and people need to hear stories from across the board, right? Because I'm only one trans person,
Yeah.
There are quite a few, and I'm pretty sure we all walk down that same path, but we have different experiences.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah, no, I love how you preface the whole conversation as like, this is your perspective, this is what you've gone through, and it's filled with wisdom. Like it's
of course, because some people, they can take it and be like, oh, well, that's not what my trans friend told me. Well, I'm not your trans friend. I'm Roxy.
All right. Hey. That's the truth. So, where can people find you, by the way?
Okay, well, my Instagram is the real _Roxy. You spell Roxy ROXIE. That's my Instagram. And if you want to know where to find me, like all of my XXX stuff, just click the link in the Instagram bio.
Sweet, wonderful. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this podcast episode. I gotta bring you back on because I feel like this was like a great, honestly, like great beginning and intermediate lesson, and like I would love to talk to you some more.
I agree.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and as always, to listeners who stayed all the way through, you're dope. Stay dope. Peace.